Thanks for joining today. This is called Hacking the Next Generation, the Cyber Frontier. Quick intro about myself, very brief. My name is David Schwartzberg. I work for Mobile Iron as a senior security engineer. I'm a part of the Mobile Iron Security Lab. So the acronym of MISL is affectionately pronounced MISSILE, which I think is a pretty cool name. So we just call it MISSILE. I'm also the president of Hack for Kids, not-for-profit. And that's all I'm going to say about me. So this is a little bit of a Star Trek meme. So you got Picard with the face palm. Kind of embarrassed that we even went with this way with the Star Trek meme, but you're not going to see too many other references. And angry Riker doesn't like that word very much. So my generation of users, we recall from our childhood that if you were going to do anything with technology, there was a lot of restrictions. And these restrictions were really kind of age-based, because if you were, say, 8 or 9 years old, right then and there was cost. Depending on what level you were, could have been reading. There's also the other restriction of typing, right? You needed to know how to use a keyboard, and a lot of patience. But now through things like mobility and consumerization of IT, today's generation of kids, they don't have these restrictions at all.
9, 2, okay. And 1 for 9, 2.
Is it okay to share your password with people?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay to share your password with people. So a couple years ago, my son there, Benny, he really didn't speak very much at a young age. He understood everything, but he didn't orate very well. But when he started to speak, these are one of the first things he started to say. It was his passcode. He was very attached, and he still is to his tablet. Now, fast forward a couple years, it took us some time, and now he says his passcode in his head, which we're thankful for. But we haven't changed it yet, so everyone on the internet knows now how to break into his tablet. But this is kind of really part of the point is kids are wired to learn. And if you give them an environment where they can play while they learn, you're going to see better results. And that's really the reason why we created Hack for Kids. Hack for Kids is essentially an environment where kids can go and learn about internet safety, best practices, explore things like science and technology in a safe environment. And if you feel that it's our responsibility to teach this generation of computing users these best practices, then we have a lot in common. So, when did Hack for Kids come about? Well, back in 2013, actually it kind of proceeded before that, but this was really the catalyst. Back in 2013, I saw a tweet including 4 different people that wanted to start ThoughtCon Kids, which I thought was really pretty cool, because I've been going to ThoughtCon since the first one. I'm an opera and I volunteer just about every year except for this one. I had a conflict, and I love that event. And you know, inside of me has been this kind of burning ember to want to deliver some kind of conference to bring people together, but there was already ThoughtCon in Chicago, so it really didn't make sense to have another event there. And then doing some of the activities that I do, creating a children's book on technology, and just working with Cub Scouts, and my kid asking me tons of computing questions, it started to make sense that this was really kind of the direction to go. And even other people spoke to me and said, you know, you're really that kind of a person who should really be leading this effort and this mission to get these kids trained at a younger age, because they're so entrenched in technology now. They're not getting a lot of what the best practices from their schools or even some of their parents. So I tweeted to these guys, and I was thrilled when they replied and said, yeah, we'll have you on the team. You'll be the 5th person being an organizer. And now I kind of felt like that fire or that ember is being fanned, and it was kind of burning inside of me, which was great. Then about a month or month and a half later, the ThoughtCon board of directors decided that they didn't want to get into a kids event. And that kind of really dissolved, or, that whole team just said, we'll maybe come up with something else. So that fire kind of fell back down to a little bit of a spark. And I just carried on, deciding, should I do this on my own? Should I just go a different direction? What are we going to do? And then just kind of talking to some other people, and then I reached out to those other 4 individuals just to make sure that it was okay with them, but they approved that I can go and do this on my own. And I got a bunch of people to help me, and in 2014 we created our first Hack for Kids in Chicago, which was really pretty exciting and fun. I love this picture because you could see like one of the staff members on the right, looking down at his phone, not really paying attention to the opening comments. Thank you, Sherman. But we have a really lighthearted group of people. We work well together because we treat each other like family, right? We love one another, so that means we pick on each other. And part of that keeps us going forward. But here was the first event, and here's some other pictures. So there's my son again. He was 2. We had some gentleman from mid-Illinois. He did some homemade hacks, or homebrew hacks, I call them. And this was one. He created this robot out of a garbage can, a galvanized pail. He put some wheels on it. It was powered by Arduino and some Wi-Fi controllers. And it was really pretty cool. So he's got like a face, and the cowboy hat was really to just hide some of the wires or the antenna that was sticking out. And the front was a tablet with our website. So there's my son. He looks at this mechanical beast, and it's bigger than him, so he's like a little intimidated. So that's where you see him freezing in his tracks. But I don't know if you could see, but a little bit on the side for the robot, there's a clear pail. And in that pail is candy. So he overcame his fear. He had an incentive. He was motivated. And really, that's kind of interesting, because when I was a youth, I don't know who played Dungeons and Dragons here or still does, but I did and wish I could. I used to spend a lot of time memorizing these complex matrices and tables because it would make the gameplay better. So I had this incentive. And that's really kind of what we do at Hack for Kids, is we find the incentive for the kids to motivate them to want to learn. And a big part of our incentives are prizes. So we have this we have this participatory CTF, where as the kids go through the different stations, and you'll learn more about that soon, the more involved they get, the more hole punches or recognition they get on like a little business card, and the more chances they have to win a prize. And we found that to be very, very effective. So there's Benny. One of the things that we do is we introduce electronics, right? It's kind of like the foundation of a lot of technology. And who remembers those old crystal radio sets with the little springs and the wires, and you had to stick them in there and connect it to another wire, and it would work for a period of time, and they were a lot of fun. Or the Heath kits, right, little soldering. But these are snap circuits. I don't know if you guys played with snap. You could raise your hand if you've played with snap. They're really high. They're a lot of fun, but they're really, for some families, cost prohibitive, right? The cheapest set, I think, is like $60. And fortunately, the company Elenco, they're based out of Wheeling, Illinois, which is really like the next town over from me. I visited their warehouse, and it's really pretty cool. It's a really nice place to go if you're into electronics and soldering and whatnot. But they donated a bunch of kits to us so that the kids can then use these kits, and we gave some away as prizes. So one of the prizes was the 500 project kit, which retail then was about $175, which is a really nice prize for people. But the kits are there. The kids play with them. We give them a bunch of challenges. We educate them a bit on the electronics. Kind of leaping forward a little bit, we had some Arduinos. And these are just a bunch of Arduinos and some custom Hack for Kids 3D printed cases. And the story behind this one was my eldest son, Sam, I was like, hey, let me show you this thing called an Arduino. And I had it plugged in, and I did the blinky light sketch. And he was like, oh, well, that's cool. But can you make it blink Morse code? So I love a challenge. And it was new to me. I wasn't used to the language. So we went there and we figured it out. And we started to get it to blink at different durations. I'm like, how does this look for a dot? How does this look for a dash? And he's like, yeah, that looks fine. I go, well, let's try and do like the letter S. And we went through it, and there's all the different commands. I was like, that's kind of long and difficult to follow. How do we know that's the letter S? Why don't we come up with some kind of like function for dot and dash? Because then we could just read it as dot, dot, dot. And if you know Morse code, that's fine, right? It's international. So you know Morse code, you can go through it, you're good. But then as we started to introduce O and then S again, I'm like, this is getting harder to read. What do you think we can do? He's like, let's make another function. Like, what do you think we should, like, make one for S, make one for O? Sure. So we were starting to do recursive function calls, which I thought was pretty cool, because back then he was 9, and he's going through this, and he's understanding it, because we're doing it and just building up on layers. And then by the end, we had functions for every letter in the English alphabet, calling dot or dash based on whatever the Morse code sequence is. And then when you looked at it, it was readable. So then we integrated that into Hack for Kids as a scavenger hunt, because one of his friends came to me and said, are you guys going to do a scavenger hunt this year? Because that would be really cool. Sure. So we printed up a bunch of these different cases, had a scorecard and different challenges, and had the different Arduinos blinking the answer. So if they found the Arduino, they figured out the Morse code, they had the answer, but then they had to look at the scorecard to see where that mapped so they could fill it out. But little did they know, if they peeled the cover off, the number for the answer was right inside. Because I wanted to try to introduce that hacker mindset of, voiding warranties, right? We peel off the sticker label. We don't really, that doesn't stop us. And as far as I know, none of them did that. Because they just were probably afraid to break it. The other fun thing that I did with my son with these was, instead of having like some kind of external power source and trying to find a place at the venue where we plug it in, we made some 9-volt wiring casings, and we soldered them up and with a connector, and we just had a little 9-volt battery tail hanging off of them, so we could put them wherever we wanted, which was really nice and convenient. So a lot of people learned from that. Here there's a young lady at our technology destruction village. So who here as a kid loved to take things apart to their parents' chagrin? I think I should see almost everybody raise their hand. Come on, Curtis, raise your hand. Participation, right? Participation. So, when I was 8, I remember my parents having this TV that was the size of a piece of furniture these days. And I turned the TV off, and I was like, I wonder what it looks like inside. So I get out the flathead screwdriver, and I'm removing the screws, and I look inside, and there's all these tubes. And I touched one, and it burned me. And I was like, all right, gotta wait for this thing to cool down. Then I started taking them out, looking at them. I was like, oh my God, does this have to go back in the same exact way? I don't know anything of this tech. I was like, oh, what did I do? I'm going to get in trouble. So I put it back in the right way because I didn't want to turn it. It was like a transformer. No, not a transformer. It's a transistor tube. And that was kind of my first exploratory moment. Guess what I forgot to do? Unplug the TV. I didn't get shocked, fortunately, but there was no adult supervision. My parents were around, but they didn't know what I was doing. And that's kind of what we wanted to introduce into Hack for Kids. Give kids the freedom to take things apart without feeling like they're going to get in trouble. To give them the ability to explore the components and not have to worry about putting it back together. And you could see she's taking apart like a DSL modem with no care in the world about what her parents are going to say to her when they find out. And she can go and explore and destroy, but we do it also, we want them to identify the components. So part of the challenges and the exercises is show us a resistor, show us a capacitor, what is this, what is that? And then they get recognition for that during the participatory CTF. Sounds like fun, right? So, well, what is Hack for Kids? We are a registered 501c3 with the U.S. government's IRS. So that gives us certain benefits from, being able to ask for donations and stuff with organizations and corporations because they tend to open their purses a little wider sometimes for a charity, rather than someone doing it for profit, but it also introduces other bureaucratic complexities. But we are a public charity. And we partner up with a lot of other different conferences. So we do have the one that's independent in Chicago, but more specifically, we found that if we partnered with people like Circle City Con or GERCon, then there's going to already be parents with that hacker mindset or IT that are looking to learn and be curious. And, when we grow up, sometimes we have families and they're going to want to bring their kids. Like a lot of kids go to DEF CON these days. So it made sense. So, kind of like go where the buffalo are. That's kind of part of what we decided to do. And it works out really well because specifically with Circle City Con, we're more of like a village. So we don't need to worry so much about venue and all those other logistical items that come up. We really kind of get to focus on content and attendance and keeping the kids safe and giving them a lot of activities to be fun. So last year was our first year working with Circle City Con. This year, June 11th. If you're going to be in Indianapolis, we'll be there. Bring your kids. I think you could still register with Circle City Con now, and the kids are free because Circle City Cons help subsidize a lot of our costs, which is really a nice model as well. We went across the pond, and we're working with the folks over at BrewCon. So those people over there, they're phenomenal to work with. They're European, so they're really polite, just like Canadians. I know there's at least one Canadian in the room today. And one of the great things about BrewCon is we went there. They covered a lot of our costs. Again, as a charity, it's kind of hard to get money from people. And then when we do, we're very careful how we want to spend it. We want to give it as much back to the kids. So going and flying and bringing all that equipment over, they helped pay for that. They gave us a space to use, and we had a good number of 24 kids with like minimal promotion of it. They just contacted the regular BrewCon attendees and staff, and it was phenomenal. That was actually our first event we ever delivered in any language other than English, and it was in 3 languages. So English was there, French, and Flemish, which I thought was really pretty cool. I'm seeing somebody's face kind of scrunch up a bit. But think about it this way. In the Python for Kids or the programming workshop, the educator needed to know the languages of the kids. So he spoke English, French, and Flemish. So if they had a question in the kid's native language, because I didn't know this, but in Belgium, kids who are like younger than, I think it's like 11, they don't really start learning English yet, and they know whatever the native language is at home. And depending on whether you're in like northern or southern Belgium, it could be French or Flemish. So I got a nice education out of that. But we accommodated them, and they had a great time. Very happy to say we're doing it again this year in Belgium. It's actually in Ghent, Belgium. And the folks there have really kind of just taken initiative, and they're going forward, and they came up with a whole bunch of lists of things, and then hey, we want to get you on a call. What do you think about this? How do you would this work? Would this not work? What do you think would be involved? And that's really the kind of the model we're looking for, is because it's very difficult to scale globally because we have limited resources. But if we help break the ice with one group of conference organizers, then if they're willing to take the initiative and go forward and do it a bit with some advice, and we don't want to completely go hands off, but that's the ideal model, and it's working really well. Internationally speaking, I'm very excited to announce that as of Monday this week, it's been not communicated publicly, but I think this is going to be the first time. So you guys familiar with Sector CA in Toronto? We are partnering with Sector CA. So I do want to publicly thank them for all their efforts. It is a big year for Sector CA. It's their 10th year, and there's a lot of things going on there. So being able to have the event right after B-Sides Toronto, which is Saturday, and then we'll be there on Sunday, and then Sector is later in the week, I'm absolutely thrilled. I keep raising my voice and the audio is changing. I'm absolutely thrilled. I know people in Toronto that have been asking me for years, you guys got to come to Toronto. So Dave Lewis is here. I know he was a big part of it and kind of bridging that gap. I'm going to put him on the spot. You guys mind giving him a quick applause just to thank him, because he helped make it happen. Along with Renew and the other folks. I don't want to leave them out, but it's just some conversations that we had in the past, impromptu at different conferences, and it takes people to make these things happen. So thank you. And we could probably do it in French, too, English and French. Bill 101. Now, we also partner with GERCON. They're out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. We're also partnering this year with Converge and B-Sides Detroit, which is in July. So if Grand Rapids is a little bit too much of a drive for you and you're thinking of going to be in that area, think about October 9th this year. We're going to have a Hack for Kids in Grand Rapids. I know there's one Michigan person here in the room, but you don't have any kids, but you could still help us out. I think I can trust you enough to be a volunteer if you're available, but you don't have to say no right now. But we've already had 1 year with GERCON. This will be our 2nd year with GERCON. And they're kind of the hybrid approach. In Chicago, we charge tickets, a pretty low fee. At Circle City Con, we don't, but at GurCon, we charge, but we're still act like a village. So it's kind of the middle ground. But we still are able to provide a lot of fun content. And the cool thing with GurCon is you could buy the ticket through us and still have a full 2-day pass to GurCon. And you can drop your kids off with us because we have security that is very strict about parents dropping kids off and picking them up. So you could feel very comfortable that your kids are at GurCon with Hack for Kids while you're off having, educational moments and contests and fun and stuff. So by now, maybe you feel like, yeah, I want to get involved. This seems really fun and exciting, Dave. I kind of really relate to this. Well, we do have a Google form. Don't worry about writing it down. This is being recorded. You can check it out later. And you can sign up, or you can just email us at questions, it is plural, at hackforkids.com. And we could talk about possibly maybe organizing something with you in your area, or if you're not an organizer and you know the organizers, we can absolutely do that. So that would be a lot of fun. Just let us know. But I do want to say that one of the things is when it comes to people who volunteer and help out, we have a bit of a model. Child protection and safety is a very big part of what we do. So we don't just let any volunteer come off the street. We're very careful that they are safe, so we give the children guns to protect themselves. That's one of my other kids. No, but a bit more seriously, that one actually went over. I'm very happy that you guys are laughing. So, but we only allow volunteers who either know board of directors or organizers in the area and that they've known more than, I got to this con and I met Bob and I've known Bob 3 years because I met him 3 times at the same con 3 times. So yeah, he's cool. That doesn't fly with us. It takes a lot more than that. Part of that is because I'm very active in scouting. If you know the term scouter, that's usually like an adult leader. And they have a lot of strong training. They call youth protection training. So some of that naturally kind of flowed into Hack for Kids. And a part of the YPT is you never have one kid left alone with one adult. And it's not just because, there might be a situation with that adult. But sometimes kids do things that are innocent but can be perceived incorrectly, and the adult's character then becomes in question. And we never want anyone volunteering helping us to have to defend their character. So we have certain rules specifically around, it's never one-on-one. And if you are an adult and you go into a restroom and there's just one kid in there, use your common sense and go outside and wait. Then go in. But if you happen to be there and someone walks in, finish up and leave as quick as possible. We also have rules like strict photography control. So we try, and it depends on where we are. In Europe, they're a little bit more loose about this, but specifically in the States, there's some parents that just don't want their kids on social media, and we do everything we can to respect that. So we do ask that, if you're in the restroom, you put your phone away. Because even if you're just checking something really quick and it might be important, what could potentially be perceived is that you're photographing in the restroom. So we're like, just put your phone in your pocket. And then you'll be fine for the couple minutes. You don't need it. Or even the direction. I got some examples of the point of view of the shot. Because, again, we just don't want any volunteer off the street. We do want to make sure there's somebody who's been properly vetted. Here's an example of a photographic shot. So we usually have 1 to 2 photographers on staff. They take pictures. They get, front shots as well as back shots. But like this one is like the over-the-shoulder shot. So I don't know who this kid is. Probably only like the kid's mom or dad and family members could recognize who this is. There's really no identifying markers other than blonde hair and an ear. I mean, that could be anyone. And you can see he's having fun. He's doing some stuff with electronics. You can see there's the Arduino. He might have played with the Morse code. And if somebody was going to take a picture of their child, but from the front, and there's another child in the frame, we do ask them either to change the POV or nicely, politely ask the child if they can just kind of step back for a moment, take the picture quickly, and then carry on, right? And here's another example. I personally do know this child, but when you look at it, the picture of it, do you know the gender? Boy, girl, hard to tell, right? There's some curly hair in there. So and there's his dad. Now I've revealed his gender. but there's his dad doing something with him. And that's the kind of photography we want. We want to show the action. We want to protect the identity. We try to create these fun badges. We're working on some badges this year that would be electronic. That would be really cool. And the engineer's here, and he's working really hard to build these badges for us that would be hackable and customizable. And he's not in this room, but he's at this conference. But last year we did some 3D printing badges, and the fun story behind that is they would run all night long, and because it's like my office is in my bedroom, and it probably ran for about 3 months, printing up hundreds of badges. So my wife was really happy when that thing broke. But, you know, the story behind the badges is I was printing some 3D robots. It had a little button, and then it kind of, like maybe we could put H4K in there, and then it kind of got bigger and bigger, and then we put the little loop on the top, and the venue, and the glider. And then you see that upside-down arrow, actually, I created a symbol for the kids. So this is their symbol. It's the Tyro symbol. Tyro, if you're familiar with the definition of the word, it just means somebody who's learning, like if they're a novice. But the arrow is the symbol, it's a Nordic rune symbol for strength and warrior. And then the circle completes the word Tyro, but the circle is representing the unity within the hacker community, as well as the hacker's never-ending desire to learn, right? Because once we figured something out, we push it a little further, make the train go faster, pull a heavier load, break this software, break this OS, right? We keep going forward. So that's their symbol, and it was intentionally upside down, so when they looked at it, it was right side up, and only the kids had that symbol on their badge. So you might be asking yourself at this point, you know, why? I mean, I kind of talked about some of the geography a little bit, but why Hack for Kids? There's other events out there, and like Roots, for example, phenomenal event. It was originally DEF CON Kids, and when I heard about DEF CON Kids and checked it out, I wasn't allowed in, but I talked to some kids, and they're like, oh my God, it was great. I was soldering, and I did all this fun stuff. And my kid wanted to go. But to be honest, I really didn't want to bring my 8-year-old to Vegas with me for a week to go to B-Sides Las Vegas and Black Hat and DEF CON, because there'd be a period of time he'd be bored, or, you know, you're up really late at night if you've never been there, and there's not a lot of hours of sleep, and I just don't think that would have been fair for me to do that to him, because I know him and I know he needs his sleep. So Roots is phenomenal, and I do encourage people to go. Fortunately, I did get a tour last year under adult supervision, because if you're not accompanied with a child, you have an adult walk you around, which is a good control mechanism. And they do some really wonderful things there. Another event, so that's Vegas, so another event is in San Jose called Hack Kid, and that was run by Beaker for a number of years, but he's moved on to somewhere else, and I only have information based on their website, but it does not look like there's going to be another one in San Jose anytime soon. So that's unfortunate, because they also, from what I've seen from photos and tweets and stuff, that they really do provide a lot of also wonderful content for kids. So what do these two have in common? West Coast based. And we know that there's a lot more than just those two coasts. So that's why we decided, you know, just to kind of graphically create it. We're in Chicago, we're in Indianapolis, we're in 2 places in Michigan this year. We're across the pond at BrewCon in Belgium, and we're also going to be this year in Toronto, which I'm also really excited about. That is actually one of my favorite cities. Vancouver's pretty cool too, but I love Toronto. Just a little too cold for me. So we were looking to reach out as far as we can go. I mean, Eric, right, we might even be doing a Hack for Kids NolaCon next year. It's not really been discussed in depth, but we talked about it. We might do that next year. Dallas has been asking us. Atlanta has been asking us. But we run into the scalability problem. I can only go to so many of these events a year. We need people who know how to organize, people that can work and take guidance. Some leaders are great leaders, but they don't know how to follow. So we're trying to really expand as much as we can. So if you do know people in your area or organizers, have them email us. Now, we've talked a lot about the background and stuff, but we've never really talked yet about the content of what we provide at Hack for Kids. So we provide primarily Chicago. It's really kind of the initial framework, and then it depends on where we're going and what we're able to do. So Chicago has a speaking track for kids, and adults. We have no age limitations whatsoever. So if somebody wants to submit a talk who's 80 years old and it looks like it's a good talk for kids, sure. Or if they're 8 years old and it's their first time presenting and they need mentorship, we provide it. We provide these, we also have these activity stations. So think of it as you go to different areas, like there might be something which could be cryptography based. So if we said, hey kids, go check out the number theory and advanced math section, you're going to have fun, they're going to be like, what the heck? So we call it spy math, because that sounds a lot more cooler. We also have like STEM activities, right? If you're not familiar with the term STEM, it's science, technology, engineering, and math. And I'm also working on something with somebody, Chris Sistrunk, where we're going to include hacking. So we're going to try to start to rally around to expand that terminology, or that acronym to be STEHM, because METHS really is not appropriate. Took a second. So there's these stations where they can go around and do something where it's coding or hands-on. It's always going to be hands-on. We also provide some workshops, and the workshops could be anything from like web hacking exposed, as you see here, Raspberry Pi, setting up your very own first Minecraft server. That's what kids ask me a lot. Hey, I want to build a Minecraft server. Fine. We gave them a Linux VM, and we taught them Linux. Well, they learned how to set up Minecraft. So that was the win-win. Their incentive was they got to play the game, but they're learning Linux. And then we're a partner also with ISC Squared Foundation, which just recently changed their name. And one of the things they do as a part of their cybersecurity awareness and stuff is the Safe and Secure Online presentation, which prior you had to be a CISSP, you had to go through the background check. They're making some changes just to get the presentation. Now the presentation is publicly available, and they're expanding that now to include something for adults, as well as seniors and even younger kids. So I'm really happy to be able to be a bit of an advisor to them for some of these things. So that's mandatory all the time. And that's where they learn the internet safety, ethics, anti-cyberbullying. Just because you can do something online anonymous doesn't mean you should, right? We know better. They need to learn. So digging deep a little bit into each of the different types of content we provide. This is, I don't know if you recognize him, this is Ruben Paul. He was 9, he delivered our first keynote, which was really pretty cool. So his keynote was, if you want to be an effective white hat pen tester, you need to learn, you got to go to the dark side, right? You need to learn all those other black hat techniques. And he was really focusing on the ethics, but he made it really fun with the whole Star Wars kind of paradigm, along with Lego characters and stuff, and delivered the presentation and then hacked an Android tablet that I let him borrow. So I got it back. The other thing you saw here, some gluing up. This STEM challenge was really for them to understand engineering and how to get around some engineering problems. We gave them 20 popsicle sticks, four rubber bands, 1 plastic spoon, and a glue gun. And a picture of what the catapult should look like, with some things kind of hidden, so they had to figure out those engineering challenges. It wasn't daunting, but just they had to come up with a way to get the stick in there and provide enough leverage and stuff like that. And what we found is some of the kids really just went off and built something slightly different, and we actually were pretty happy to see that. Because again, that's the hacker mindset, right? You see a problem, you need to solve it the way that you know it makes sense to you, and it might actually be that better mousetrap. Some of the kids then, which we didn't know was going to happen, started balling up pieces of paper and having competitions of whose catapult could shoot further. And we're like, this is awesome. And then they go back and they tighten up the rubber bands. They put a little bit more glue someplace where it didn't seem so strong. So that's R&D. I mean, they're learning the whole project or product management process without hearing all the exciting, boring parts of it. But other activity stations are coding-based. You saw the stems, the snap circuits. You know about spy math. It could be something also with robotics. We're going to do something in Chicago this year called Sumo Bots. So they build the Sumo Bot. They could program it based on whatever power or speed the robot has. It goes into a circle, and then it's a grudge match. And then they just start knocking pieces off of each other's robots. And then whoever wins, we're going to have a gift card for them at the end. So there's their incentive to learn how to build a strong robot. Build and test. So this is just a sheet that we've used. So, at the table, it's not kind of like willy-nilly. What do we do here? We have a form. It explains what the project objectives are. It explains some lessons if it's something new to them. And then even, with my scouting background, and I'm also a STEM counselor with Boy Scouts, is why not give these kids, if they're a scout, a little bit extra incentive? So you could see those symbols like the gear symbol and the circle. If they're working on any of their other achievements for like STEM Nova program, then they would also receive credit towards that as well. So they seem to appreciate that. And then we have workshops. So think of the workshops as the activity stations times 2 to 4 hours. So the stations could be something where they show up there 5-10 minutes. They're like, that Raspberry Pi stuff's not for me, but I really dig the snap circuits. And they could sit there at snap circuits all day. We had a kid at Circle City Con. He was 14. He never touched any kind of encoding or crypto before in his life. And we had about 8 sheets of things that are binary encoded, hexadecimal, base 64, monoalphabetic substitution ciphers like the Dancing Man, Orabesh. Who knows what Orabesh is? I love you. I'm already married, but that would have been a proposal. So yeah, the Orabesh is the Star Wars language. There's some interesting history on that, but in the first movie, it really had no meaning when you saw it like show up on Luke Skywalker's display. But somebody built the language around the symbols, and we use that as an encoding cipher. So the kids had fun, like, oh my God, that looks like something from Star Wars, and a little bit of Googling and finding the website how to decode it, or frequency analysis, which I've seen some people do, pigpen ciphers. They're having a ton of fun, and this kid was there all day decoding everything. He goes, I've never done this before, but I love it. And we don't know if he's going to be like the next great, like, Teher El-Gamel, right? Come up with some really cool algorithm that's mathematically based that everybody uses every day, and they don't even know who Teher is. But, and that's the point, is discovering something inside of them that they didn't even know about themselves. That hopefully we can make the world a little better. But these are the workshops. They're intensive. They're 2 to 4 hours. We've done stuff like really unboxing a Raspberry Pi. And it's easy to plug in like an HDMI monitor and USB keyboard. But if they go home, they might not have that. So we had it set up with XRDP running. They had to learn how to find their IP address based on the Mac. So we had the Mac, like the last 4 characters, written on the outside of their adapter. So they figured out what their IP is, and then they were able to get on the box that way without having all the other pieces hanging off of it. So they really learned more about networking and the whatnot. So it's a lot of fun stuff. Even the adults are like, can I do that? Python for Kids station, we just assumed they didn't know Python, but if they did, we had much more advanced challenges. So it was very basic exercises. Hello world, inputting, building lists, and then drawing shapes. And then we moved it on to challenges like the Dizzy Turtle. So kind of get it to spin around using a for loop. And then when they complete the challenges, depending on the satisfaction of the educator, at least if it's 2, then they got like recognition with a hole punch. How am I doing on time? Am I running low? 8 minutes? All right, I'm going to speed it up a little bit. We also had the Fibonacci series. We thought maybe there's somebody who's already been doing some programming, or they're a teenager and they wanted something a little bit more challenging. Unfortunately, nobody tried that, or nobody was able to solve it. Online, we have our library. So if you want to see some content from prior sites, I know I need to dress this up a little bit and make it a little bit more fun, maybe use a little bit more CSS. But like, for example, that one right in the middle, the Minecraft workshop notes, we have people still going in there and clicking it, getting the notes on how to build your own Minecraft server on Linux, which you can also do on Raspberry Pi. So just go to hackforkids.com, click on the library. We give out, I mentioned it before, tons of prizes. This is, from Elenco, but this kit I mentioned before, $175. No Starch Press, they're a sponsor of ours. They give us 7 or 8 books per event. So now we're also handing out books to kids so they can further their education. And they get to pick it. So, depending on your order, you get to pick the prize. And usually the bigger ticket prizes go first. We've given away Arduino. And we've also given away the coveted DC Darknet badge. Who knows what this is? Yeah, these things are really pretty cool. If you go to DEF CON, you can only get these at DEF CON. It's a solder kit project. It also has the a Duolinova chipset on there, so if you get their sketch from their website, you can figure out how to activate the TV Be Gone. And once I told the kids what a TV Be Gone is, they all wanted it. I mean, this was a $20 solder kit project, which the badges could talk, and there's some crypto stuff on there. It's a lot of fun. But this was more valuable to them because they can go into Best Buy and turn TVs off versus like the $175 snap circuit kit. I was like, when you see the parents like, don't get that, get the snap circuits. Because, it's saving them a ton of money. But they love it. They love the badge. And we give out gift cards, tons of stuff. So how do we know we're effective? It's really, really hard, but we're trying to collect as many metrics as we can, especially anything related to cyberbullying. Just 2 weeks ago, my son was a victim of cyberbullying by one of his friends and his friend's friend online on a Minecraft server. And he was defending his brother. So my son was defending my other child, his younger brother, because his friend was picking on him by breaking his stuff and using harsh language because they're Skyping. And we weren't around. We may be in the next room or whatever. We don't know what's going on. And it was really a very frustrating moment for us because I teach anti-cyberbullying. My son became a victim of it. He's been through these things so many times. And even though he knows how to diffuse the bully, he still got angry because it was his friend. You usually think of the bully as somebody that's not your kid's friend, but in this case it was. And he punched his laptop and destroyed it, which is not the best way to handle the situation, regardless of your age. But these are real problems, and it's very hard to know how successful we are, even when we're teaching the kids the right things. They're emotional people, just like us. Digging in a little deeper, I was going to talk more about surveys, but surveys is one way that we try to collect metrics on how successful we are. And it's kind of tricky, because I don't know if you can read the top one, but right over there, how many Hack for Kids attended? So when I asked my older son, what do you think that means? He goes, well, how many times you went to Hack for Kids? When I asked my wife, she read it as, how many people are going to Hack for Kids? So the wording is very important on a survey, because we had people, even though it says 1, 2, and 3 to circle, they wrote in the number 4. And that wasn't an option. So normalizing the data is tricky. Even other things around here, like workshops. They were only able to go to one workshop, but some people provided a score for both. So normalization of the data is a trick. So I do have some data for you. This is my poor attempt at creating an infographic. I'm really not good at this stuff, but I try. This is all data from Chicago last year. We had 53 kids attend. That's the gender breakdown on top. And to me, it's just it's a sub-value of the total population. I don't believe that there's really about a quarter of the third of the gender interested in this are female versus male. I just think that's what our attendance was, because we're seeing more and more women get into this space, and that's pretty cool. But, whatever, if it's 50-50, that's great too, but I don't really think that's representative of the entire industry globally or even in the U.S. The next number down, we look at who's kind of first time there. So that larger graphic, 36 versus 12, that was their first time there. The next one down, it was evenly divided, 2 boys and 2 girls. That was their second Hack for Kids. And one kid went to all 3 and happened to be related to him. He was my son. Ages, we intentionally don't ask the specific age of the youth attending, even though we're not subject to COPA laws. We still want to respect them. So we ask a range. And we found that our sweet spot is 8 to 12, and I think part of it is because it's my kids and their friends and talking to their parents and just all of that type of networking. But we did get some teenagers, and some of them found the information to be valuable. And then we had 4 kids that were 7 years old, and we experimented lowering it. So our age group is 7 to 17. So it's very hard to, that's a big spread as far as academic and aptitude level. So when we do these challenges, we have them at different gradients for younger or novices, all the way up to someone who's a bit more advanced. Which stations were most popular? On the left, you see the technology destruction village. Who doesn't like to take things apart? We established that everyone in the room enjoyed doing that. The one on the right that was most attended was the lock-picking village, because who doesn't like to pop a lock? So kind of looking at the people that visited the lockpick village, we had 28 kids visit the lockpick village. Of that, we had 12 who actually popped 5 pins. It's funny how Iron Geek walked in right as soon as we're talking about the lockpick village. Perfect timing, sir. 6 kids that did the 6-pin, and 9 kids did the cuffs. But there was only like really one kid who just popped cuffs and left. So I don't know what that means. He didn't do anything else, just wanted to know how to get out of handcuffs. And then one kid got as far as 6 pins, which I thought was, I have trouble with 5 pins. And to get all the way to 6 pins, that was really impressive. Network security activity station, we had 9 kids there. And of the 9, all 9 of 9, did every exercise, but only 7 of 9, bad Star Wars, Star Trek injection there. 7 of 9 were actually able to do the hidden file challenge. I said Star Wars because the Arabesh was still in my head, and I'm looking at my next wife over there. Oh, I'm in trouble now. My wife cannot watch this. So the hidden file challenge was they were just actually collecting network traffic, and then they had to find the image that was hidden on our website, and then find the secret message in the image. Python for Kids, we had 10 kids go to that area, and all 10 did every exercise, but only 2 got as far as the second hardest challenge. Fibonacci Series, as you know, we didn't have anybody solve. Spy Math, we had 12 kids visit that area. We had 7 do 7 of the 8 challenges, and 2 kids did proofs. They were 8 years old. The educator came up to me and goes, I just taught 2 kids how to do mathematical proofs. Because he was working with them, and he found that they were able to consume that type of information, and he was thrilled. I mean, it was amazing, because that was off curriculum, and we were very happy to hear that. Keep doing things outside the box. I'm almost done. Technology Destruction Village, we had 14 kids, and of that, we had 5 kids identify all 7 components that were required, and every kid was able to identify a capacitor, which I thought was kind of cool. We got some comments. You can see them here yourselves. It's a tricky thing when, you're an adult and you go to a hacker conference and things are not going your way, or maybe it's just not exactly, the conference that the expectations weren't there. And what do? You suck it up. You're an adult, you move on with life, and it's not a big deal. You're just like, whatever. But when you're organizing events for people's kids, and their kids want to go, and even if you're charging $40 to get in, and it doesn't meet the kid's expectation, I guarantee you're going to be toe-to-toe with a parent that's not happy. And because it's their kid, they're going to have a lot to say. So we make a huge effort to provide as much quality as possible. And these are just a couple comments. And the only ever negative thing we ever received was, why are there so many fees when we register? But that was coming from the registration company which we moved away from. So we try to lower some of the fees and make it easier, even though it's not a lot of money. So we're wrapping up here. Help us climb to the top of this mountain. If you got any other questions, I know I'm starting to run late. I'm happy to answer them in the hallway. I can give you a business card. Here's how you can find me on Twitter. I do want to thank Mobile Iron for sponsoring me coming out here, delivering this presentation to you folks. Here's references to the other community sites. I don't know if you can read them. No, it's not letting me zoom in. Here we go. Oh, hang on. There you go. Thank you very much. I appreciate it again. I'm Dave Schwartzberg, and this is Hacking the Next Generation. Enjoy the rest of NolaCon, which is actually a pretty phenomenal conference. Thanks, man. Bye, guys.